It isn't like that anyways, is it? It's looking together, inquiring and looking together. It's really a wonderful thing, isn't it, if one has a lot of time and space. It just occurred to me looking at Carl trying to disentangle the wire. There's no rush, is there, for this wire to get disentangled, for the microphone to be hooked up, and for Toni to start talking. There's no rush in all of that. And yet we're always rushed to get to something and to get something done, to get it over with and to get to the next thing. This is how we live, isn't it? From morning till night, rushing, no time, no space, having to get so many things done, so many deadlines. And burning out or wearing oneself out, or then rushing into entertainment, what we call recreation, but it is not recreation if we rush into it and want to get the most out of it, worrying that it may come to an end. So as we're sitting here, very few people, lots of space in between us, and in listening, the streets have come to quiet, haven't they? They've seen so much traffic all day long, have heard so many tires or screeching brakes, and now there's hardly any sound. Just every once in a while, some wet sound of tire touching pavement. The daily rush to work and from work is over. And in sitting here, can there be this relaxing into patience, no rush, no goal, and opening up to what is there? A little while ago during the sitting, there were a few bird calls left. Did one hear those? With all the space that it needs to be heard? The heartbeat, the breathing, the clock and back. Can that sound be there in space without rush or pressure? Without going to sleep? The result of rushing all day long and being under pressure, having to get so many things done and leaving so many things unfinished, which is also a pressure. The result is often that one is just dead tired when one gets home. Then if one is dead tired, can one sleep and wake up refreshed from a nap? Or the next morning, maybe wake up early because one went to bed early? the other morning, waking up early. Took a walk in Springwater. There was fog all over the valley. You could see the thickness of it in white wads. It was thinner on the hill. And just stepping outside, the fragrance of the wetness of grass and earth and leaves, the moisture everywhere touching the skin gently, the downhill slope, the mud sparkling because the sun was coming through, and the roar of the little creek full with water, muddy water. There's no rush to accomplish anything. Everything is there if we take a moment to look and listen and taste and smell and touch without wanting to get anything out of it. Not needing to get anything out of it because it's all there. The question that came up yesterday in the discussion period at Springwater was something like that. I would like to make something out of my life. I'm always discontented with whatever I do. I want fulfillment for myself. I want to lead a deep life. I want to help others. I also want to find out who I am. And it all doesn't come together. And another person recently asked me, what does it really mean to live a full life? I would like to live a full life. What does it mean? What do you think is a full life? A person asked. My first response at hearing this question was an empty life. We want a full life, but we're not empty of ourselves. And therefore never in touch with what's there when the self, with all its needs for fulfillment, doesn't occupy center stage. Almost all of our life, the self occupies center stage in this consciousness, in this human consciousness. So full of itself, with its needs and desires and fears. One of the needs so often expressed is, I want to fulfill myself. I want a fulfilling job or relationship or spiritual practice. Never seems to happen because there's always discontent. Wanting to do something for myself and then feeling guilty about not doing something for others or for the world. And really not knowing how to go about doing something for others or for the world. Or if one is doing things, has a job as a doctor, people come to talk to me who are doctors, psychiatrists, or social workers, teachers, nurses. The tremendous burden of constantly being with needy people. sick people, people needing attention, needing help, needing services, needing protection, needing healing. And the burning out of people who have thought that this was going to be the fulfilling job, not wanting to see another person, very often becoming cynical about the hopelessness and despair in people that they're there to serve. What is our problem? Everything rushes in the mind and body to solve the problem, to find the fulfilling job, to find the fulfilling relationship, the fulfilling hobby. But what is the problem? What is this tremendous yearning for fulfillment? What are we trying to fulfill? Who is trying to fulfill what? Fulfill, satisfy, gratify. What? Who? Isn't it our whole past, all our past influences, conditionings, programs, our parents talking? Become something, do something important, occupy yourself gainfully. All the idealism of doing something for mankind, conditioned into us as something we ought to do, good works for others. Person yesterday who raised the question later on told us that his father was never satisfied with him, never satisfied with what he's doing now. Always wanted something more for his son to accomplish. This is all of that, all of our past influences, our ideas, our longings, the longings of our parents and teachers, the imprint of social pressures, books we've read. Is that all that longs for fulfillment? To satisfy, to feel that one is accomplishing or doing one's responsibility or duty? Is that what pushes and pressures us? And never any contentment in it, because there is the pressure, there is the weighing, there is the thought, am I doing my best? Am I doing as well as I could? Should I be doing something else? Something more for myself, something more for others? This endless vacillation of thinking about oneself, what one should be doing or should not be doing. So full of oneself, with all the programs, all the ideas, all the monitoring, all the inner voices. What my father said, what my teacher and my mother said. can that quiet down? On an evening of sitting quietly in a room with a window open, a few sounds of passing cars, someone yawning, some movements of a body, just listening, being in touch with what is there. The churning of wanting, of shoulds, of oughts, of discontent, listening to that, and it all quieting down. In this listening, is that possible? We have so many ideas about a fulfilling or full life. And we don't know what life is. We don't know what living is. Because we're so driven and pushed by our ideas about what we should be doing or shouldn't be doing. What is life? Right now, the tree's just about to burst into leaf. Have you looked at them? The buds ready to burst, the drops of rain on them, the mist, the light on the droplet, the reflection of light on the pavement. Flowers appearing on the lawn, the blue and white, the yellow. Is one taking time to look? The little spears of folded leaves pushing through the ground. Reddish green. Is one looking? Is one taking time? Stopping to listen and smell and look? Birds are calling, they're building nests, feeding on the wing from tree to tree. Is one taking time to look? Does one have time? One wants a fulfilled, full life, but one is not in touch with life, in oneself and all around one. In the earth, the sky, and the plants and trees, and in the people right next to one. What does it mean to be alive? Just to worry and rush from morning till night? We ask all of our questions and press for solutions, and we don't live. We don't understand one moment of living by listening without knowing. If one has the opportunity to watch little children, they are not concerned about what a full life is. They are alive. Alive with looking, touching, licking, putting to the mouth and banging, crawling or walking, crying or laughing. We're so full of ourselves and yet wanting fulfillment. There's no room for fulfillment because we're so full of thought. with its discontent or temporary contentment, and then wanting more of it, or something else, something different. Always wanting, stirred up by thought and imagination. And the body constantly in the turmoil of all the thoughts. Because no thought passes by without stirring up or affecting the whole body in one way or another, positively or negatively, joyfully or fearfully or angrily, upset. How can one get in touch with being alive, with living? Not my life. I want my life to be full. What shall I do with my life? Or I want to do something out of my life. There's no such thing as my life. There's only aliveness, which is not separated or disconnected, except in thought. This incredibly marvelous season of spring, with new life budding and sprouting everywhere, just about to burst into vision. Can we look for a moment? All of us who are so concerned with living fulfillingly, and how do we look? How do we listen? Can we look and listen out of the emptiness of not wanting, not needing to accomplish something in the looking and listening? The emptiness of no concern about myself for one moment at a time. Is that possible? One person asked me recently, but what is the meaning of life if I have to die? If there will be a time when I won't see birds anymore or won't hear sounds of rushing water. What's the meaning of it then if I can't hear it? If I won't be there anymore? If I have to die? This is how thought encapsulates us. That unless I, and that's a thought, unless I, me, can be there, life has no meaning. Unless I am there to look and listen and feel and touch and smell, it all becomes meaningless. That's not the life of a little child who can't think yet about itself, beginning or ending. It's the product of adult thought. But it doesn't feel like thought, it feels like a real concern. What's the use of life going on after I have died? That's a very common concern. If I can't see it anymore, or hear it, or touch it, then what's the use of it? What's the meaning of it? There probably is no meaning or use in life. It's useless. It's meaningless. Meaning and use are what constantly churning thought wants to create in order to feel better about itself, or important about itself, or meaningful or worthwhile about itself. But when these thoughts quiet down, don't absorb all the energy of life in their dead churning, then there is no meaning beyond what is. That's a thought. Do you see that? What's the meaning of... We were walking in a park today, along a deep gorge, Letchworth Park, you've probably been there. And below us were 4 vultures, or they weren't hawks, I don't know what they were. Huge birds on the wing, just floating. Every once in a while, one almost landed on a branch, but then took off again. One couldn't help feeling that they were having a marvelous time, just floating on the updraft and circling. None of them ever swooped down or sat down. It was just a circling in the breeze. These beautiful wings, white underneath, shining. The sun was transparent. The sun was behind them. There's a transparency of these wings. Very yellow beaks. And the green roaring water way underneath on some rapids, rock formations you could see by the way the water was foaming and bubbling. And a few red leaves out already, no longer bud, already burst and unfurled, very tiny, red. What's the meaning of it? That question didn't even come up. Because the one who was looking was not concerned about the meaning of life, not reflecting upon it or doubting it. Everything was alive. But that's an afterthought. At the time there was no thought. Just the incredible marvel of it all. You could say, well, very few of us have the good fortune on a Monday morning to walk in Letchworth Park. Most human beings have to work for a living, and make enough money to feed and house a family, pay the bills, take care of the broken down car. But for a moment this evening of having lots of time and space, no goal, no particular ambition to achieve anything, we can wonder why we don't walk, maybe not in Letchworth Park, but leisurely down a street looking to the sky, to the bark of a tree, to some grasses that come through the pavement. There are cracks in the pavement and some grasses coming through. Some moss underneath a leaf, underneath a tree, where the grass doesn't grow because of the roots. The roots. Does one look at roots of a tree? Right next to the cement pavement? The morning sky or the evening sky, the mist and fog, or the clearing of the clouds and the sun breaking through? Do we take time to look and be in touch empty of ourselves. Do we see the power of thought, the tremendous influence of thought on our every moment of living? Can we observe it, watch it as we watch a cloud pulling together or drawing apart? And by seeing the power of thought to affect the body, the emotions, the feelings, by seeing that, witnessing it as it happens, can that influence be broken at that moment? And the car on the wet pavement be heard fully as it is? The most powerful thought being I, my, and mine. A deep-seated conviction that this is real, that I, this feeling of I-ness and my and me-ness is real. So real that that's the meaning of life. If that doesn't continue, life loses its meaning. Do you see the tremendous power thought has taken? That it is what conveys meaning to life, which is not true. Life has its own meaning, which is no meaning of thought. Does that make sense? Is that clear? Life is just being alive, change. Constant change, constant renewal. And thought wants to attribute meaning to it. And if it can't, it gets depressed. The whole body gets depressed with a depressed thought that life is meaningless if I'm not there. But what is I? What is me? This body? This body will age and wither and eventually decompose, die, stop, end. We're sure about that. Either through old age or sickness or accident. This body will end. Every body will end and has ended for millions of years. But life has not ended. This whole thing of beginning and ending is thought. Even though a human body or an animal, a tree or a plant is no longer, withers away, dies, that's not the end of life. It's not even the end of that body or plant or animal. If left alone, if not put into a preservative. These days, I understand that people are promised by morticians that the grave is waterproof, that the casket is waterproof. That's a horrible thought, isn't it? What would naturally wither is not allowed to wither because of thought, wanting to preserve one's body forever, dead or alive. Can one wonder about this and begin to see the interplay of body and thought? Body is real. Thought is real as a neurophysiological occurrence which produces pictures or words coming from memory. But the thought that there is a me that would survive this body, or one hopes it would survive this body, that's thought. The whole me is thought, memory, recollection, past experiences, knowledge, past influences, past teachings, past admonishments, past imitations. That's the me. It's all made up out of memory, which is thought, affecting this organism, depressing it at the thought, I will not continue. I will die at one moment. And therefore in the depression, not in touch with the fullness of life as it manifests this moment, everywhere. In the stars or in the clouds or in the water, earth or trees, plants, animals, and human beings, but human beings laboring under the impact of thought. Self-centered thought, there is some thought which is very helpful, we couldn't live without it. But self-centered thought is either an upper or a downer. I think this whole problem of should I work to fulfill myself, or should I work to do something for others, or should I work to find out who I am? This whole problem cannot be resolved unless there is some quietness inside. The quietness of listening and looking and wondering about this me that feels it should or could or shouldn't. And this quietness comes about if the me is seen from moment to moment and understood from moment to moment as thought and remembrance with tremendous power all over the body. All the problems of choice come from this me. And they're endless problems, because no choice is going to be the perfect choice. Because all grounded in me, which is thought and remembrance and future anticipated. But when the energy does not activate this whole system of me, the energy gathers in listening, quietly looking, spaciously, then others and oneself are not divided. There's sensitivity then to what is going on around one, in other people. And out of that sensitivity comes a sensitive, alive relationship with each other. Here or in Africa or in Asia or Nicaragua, it doesn't matter where. Are we alive to each other? We can't be if we are full of ourselves. But But if there's space inside, then it's all there. And our action becomes loving and sensitive. No matter what we may be doing or where we may be finding ourselves. See, the world is a concept, but people right next to me are not. If there's sensitivity and openness to see and look and touch what's there. We will end here for today.